Welcome back to Noise Avocation Podcast. I am Ryan here with Jeremy.
What up?
If you guys are listening to this, more than likely on your way to work Monday morning or whatever it may be, I'm sure it's from some sort of streaming service, whether it be Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Samsung Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. There's a ton of different ones out there, and that's kind of what we want to talk about today is everybody, well, according to a statistical study, like 95% of people like use a streaming service of some sort in today's day and age.
Totally fucking reasonable. I mean, think about it.
Oh, like
I mean, I believe the number.
Believable?
Yeah.
Well, it's always based off of like how many people they surveyed, but regardless, like it makes up for 80 to 90% of the entire music industry revenue, which is massive because it used to be like tours, album sales, physical sales, all that stuff. Like that's what
It's like total music industry. That's fucking mind-blowing.
And I read somewhere that like the top 1% of artists make up for 90% of the music streamed or something like that.
So I guess my question is, if music streaming accounts for 90% of the total music industry revenue, where the fuck's all the revenue going?
And that's a big question that we want to ask here. Like, is streaming worth it for the artist? The obvious answer to the question is no, because they don't pay shit. Everything basically pays, tenths of a penny. Even the ones like, like the argument for Apple Music is always, well, Apple Music pays the artist more than Spotify does. And they do, but like Spotify pays like 5/10 of a penny, where Apple Music might pay like 8 to 9 tenths of a penny.
Yeah, it does. It's like nothing.
So, I mean, either way, it's like, that's like saying like, okay, I make minimum wage, or you make 50 cents more than minimum wage. Like, sure,
you're making minimum wage.
Yeah, sure. Like, it puts a little bit of extra in your pocket at the end of the day, but it really isn't that much. Like,
right.
In order for an artist to make minimum wage, they would have to have, I believe it's 800,000 monthly streams in order for them to accumulate that.
800,000 a month?
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy because the average person, like, they're not reaching 800,000 people without some sort of radio, pay-to-play marketing of some sort, social media exposure, like all the things that go into marketing an artist to get those plays. Like, that shit takes time to accumulate.
Yeah, those top 10 ones have the best fucking A&R people in the world, too, I would imagine.
Yeah, like take podcasts, for example. Like it's hard to get somebody to sit and listen for 20, 30, 40 minutes or an hour plus if you're not already somebody or have somebody on there like that they want to hear. Joe Rogan's a good example. Like,
that's what I was thinking.
Dude was already famous going into it, had a name, had a team, had the exposure, had the fame, I guess, so to speak, to go with it, even though Joe Rogan was such a random one. Like, because when I was a kid, he's just the Fear Factor guy.
Yeah, Fear Factor.
But that's a different story.
But that kind of relates to this in one way, because you can only now listen to Joe Rogan's complete podcast aside from YouTube, but to just listen to it, it's only on Spotify now.
Yeah,
because of whatever deal he has.
I think he's like the largest podcast on Spotify.
Yeah, he's got to be the largest podcast. Almost
altogether.
Yeah.
I think he is number one.
Gotta be close.
We're talking about how people who have their music on Spotify typically don't get paid shit, or what it should be worth at least. In the last 20 years has gone from being a, multi-million-dollar industry to a now being multi-billion-dollar industry, where the general revenue is, 20 billion plus per year for streaming, but artists like Snoop Dogg, for example, who accumulate 1 billion plus streams, are seeing $40,000, $50,000. Everybody's seen that clip where he said that he added it up to see like what it was at the end of the year, and it was not even close to what they thought it should be.
By the time you get to, and not everybody's obviously going to reach that Snoop Dogg point. I mean, I don't know if anybody can ever do that again, but once you're up that high, that 50,000 doesn't mean shit.
No.
And it's like definitely the principle of the thing. I get that, but it's like for the little guy, you're not going to get shit. You're going to get anything. You know what I mean? The exposure is your payment, how they see it. At least, I would admit, like That's how it is.
Like giving them the platform to be exposed to all the people.
Like, you should
potentially
be thanking
though,
them,
because like you have to do the work to be able to drive somebody to get to check out your stuff. Like even a 3-minute song, most people today, they digest content in like 20 to 30 second reels. Like people don't want to listen to a whole song oftentimes, which is bizarre to me because I'm like, really, you don't have 3 minutes? But
I mean, it's kind of like, 15 minutes of fame is now like 15 seconds or whatever.
Yeah. It's been a steady climb for streaming for the last 20 years, and I think it'll still keep going. But we both use different streaming services. So, like, I use Apple Music. I've used it since Apple Music became a thing. You use Spotify. We both dabble in Bandcamp a little bit, but, like, we've both agreed, like, not heavily.
I go on there for, like you were saying before, it was like there's certain genres that I go on Bandcamp for. And black metal, like, there's a lot of, like, that on there. It's like the one-man band style shit, I guess, which makes more sense.
Well, there's a lot of artists that seem to go to Bandcamp because for a while it was the place where, like, that was the sort of, like, counterpart to the major streaming services. Like, that was your way to get out of that. But now, from what we've heard from people, it seems like they're taking a big chunk of music, charging you a fee to put your music on there, taking a portion of merch sales. And yes, they have to, be able to generate some type of revenue to sustain as a company, but there comes a time where, like, you shouldn't be taking less of a percentage for your art than what, say, like a Spotify or Apple Music is.
Yeah, because they're to the point now, like a Bandcamp, to where, they just care about the bottom line. They don't care about your music.
They have millions upon millions of users. Spotify is obviously the leader in streaming just because I think of the free tier. I think that draws in a lot of the crowd that they have.
I would agree.
And, I mean, it goes back and forth on, like, the personal preference thing. Like, you could be a fan of Apple Music because of lossless audio. You could like the interface more. You already had an iPhone, and that's what came on it. That all boils down to your preference. I prefer Apple Music. Jeremy uses Spotify, but I did want to ask you, like, what drew you to Spotify originally?
I thought about this a little more. It was obviously it was free to download, and then I think it's $10 a month per
account. Yeah, it's like $10.99, I believe.
Yeah, $10.99,
which is the same cost as Apple Music.
But I paid $10.99 for 2 accounts with me and my old lady that I talk about from time to time. I like how it gives you, like, your weekly or whatever, like, top things you've listened to. Like, I like that for the podcast or for, like, telling you, like, oh, this is what I listen to a lot. But I don't know. I guess it was just because it was there is what drew me. I don't have a legit reason as far as they had more advertising, and I don't use an iPhone. Like, if I got an iPhone before I got an Android, I guarantee you I'd probably be using Apple Music instead.
Yeah, because it was already on the phone. And a lot of people think that because you don't have an iPhone, you can't use Apple Music, which I think at one point was true, but eventually they made an Android app to where you can use it, because I know plenty of people that have Androids that use Apple Music.
So, and I do like, I like Spotify's, the desktop app on the computer. I like how that's laid out. I use that from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, they got big with that whole, like, year-end wrap-up thing was huge for social media. Like, that's advertising 101. Like, that's self-promotion right there. User-generated content. Like, that's, you can't ask for a better form of promotion than something like that, because every time somebody posts that, they see a Spotify logo or a Spotify Wrapped or whatever, and it was huge. And for a minute there, Apple Music didn't do it, but now you can get their rewind thing and whatever, and all that shit's pretty superficial. That is what it is. That doesn't really have much of an appeal to me. It's cool to see what you listen to at the end of the year, but outside of that, it doesn't make or break the streaming service for me.
Oh, yeah, no, not like all of that bell whistle bullshit. All I want it to do is just to listen to music or whatever. Now, I did listen to a lot of podcasts when I was welding, so maybe that might have been another reason to use Spotify, because it seems like back then they had a lot, like, how does Amazon Music, how's their podcast thing?
Apple Music has a separate podcast app.
Oh, so okay, that would be another reason. Then I use Spotify because it's all in one thing. And I used to listen to, like I said,
I don't know why they have a separate one or whatever. I will say right now, for podcasts, Spotify is doing a better job because Apple Podcasts, you can't upload video to yet. Whereas Spotify, like if you're watching us right now, you can watch through video streaming the episode, and they cut up little clips of the video.
That is so strange.
I think Apple Podcasts will catch up to that eventually. I don't know why they're not already doing it for whatever reason.
They're usually ahead of the game.
That is what it is, but I like that aspect of Spotify. But if I was listening to a podcast, I'd pretty much use the Apple Podcast app just because that's where all like my followed stuff is already.
Right.
And I was already using that because I have an iPhone.
So
I'm not sure.
We're both kind of like on a convenience thing.
Yeah, and the monetization for podcasts is different than the monetization for artists. Like the criteria is a little, you need to meet a certain amount of watch hours and stuff like that, and returning subscribers and, whatnot.
All that bullshit.
That's a different combo. But so going through this, we have this chart up here of the music streaming annual revenue going back to 2005 leading to 2023, and it's been like just a steady climb since then. You can see the chart going up there. Like I mentioned earlier, going from just $1 million industry to a multi-billion-dollar industry in 20 years and probably still going. I mean, it beats every other form of video streaming, social media, radio,
definitely.
Short videos, all that stuff. Like it is the number one consumption of music.
Now, it's on this list. On the music streaming platform market share, Spotify obviously takes up the market. But then the second one is Tencent Music, then Apple Music.
Yeah, I actually haven't heard of the other one.
No, I'm looking it up right now.
Because I remember when I was scrolling through this list, I seen that, and I was like, wow, that's crazy that it's above Apple Music. I've never even used it, but I also haven't looked for a streaming service to use because I've been using the same one. You and I have both used Tidal, and I think their UI is really cool. Like the way their app is designed and everything looks nice, sleek, shiny, like it's modern.
The interface is good.
Yeah, the interface is great, but as far as
they lied.
They didn't have. Well, they did.
That's it. That's it for
that
me.
master quality release thing, like that was debunked pretty quickly.
And that's why I left them and won't go back.
And they didn't have as wide of a catalog. Like
that too.
Apple Music and Spotify have the biggest catalogs in streaming.
I had both at one time because I had to have Spotify to have. Because of that, they didn't have everything. And Tidal was just a big lie.
Yeah, I used it while they had like the free trial and stuff just to check it out. But a lot of times I found myself to where I couldn't find something I was looking for on there.
Back to Apple.
I got rid of it.
Yeah.
But reading this, it does say that like 99% of Gen Z and 98% of millennials use streaming services to listen to music, which goes to show that not enough people are buying records and physical media. So
that leaves 2% of people that don't listen to shit. I mean, or listen to the radio still.
I haven't listened to the radio in years, like willingly at least.
Yeah, dude, it's on in my kitchen when my old lady does the dishes sometime.
I don't even have a.
Or when I get in my ride and she drove it, like it's blaring like 98. Or 94.9, the fucking oldie station.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, every time I'm like, oh, boop. Because it's those songs, man, that you've heard like a million times.
Yeah, they're paid to be on there.
Oh, yeah.
Like the label's doing that. What about YouTube? Have you used YouTube Music at all? I haven't, so I don't really know much about it.
I use YouTube actually a lot, but I have not used YouTube Music. I could use Amazon Music. I don't use that either.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't.
With Amazon, I don't have any reason why not to use it, but why get another fucking music app that's of a lesser than Spotify or Apple.
I only know a couple people that use Amazon. But outside of like the 1%, the bigger artists like, Drake, Miley Cyrus, The Weeknd, like Rihanna, all the people that are in the billions and billions of streams, talking about like some of the more independent artists that, let's say, are garnering, 10,000 streams a month or something like that.
Yeah, or like I follow ones that will be like they have 33 monthly followers, it's like they're small.
So they're small. But do you think it's worth it for them to be able to put their music on Spotify, to have all of these petite people potentially hear their music and find it through there? Or do you think they should just kind of stick to more like the Bandcamp DIY approach?
Now, based on this information, I would put it on Spotify and Apple. I mean, if you want even a chance, you got to put it on streaming.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. I'm not saying you're not able to like go out and make it as an artist without streaming your music. I'm sure there are people out there that do it, but it definitely adds a larger hurdle in place for you to get that exposure, because the only way now, we're so like inundated with so much information all of the time, every day. There's new things pitched to us, there's new products, there's new music, new TV shows, clothes, everything, drama, politics, all of it. Like, it's a lot. It's all in your face. Like, you get to see all of that shit. So to get people,
overwhelming.
It is. So to get people who are already overstimulated to begin with to take the time to go and listen to your music is a challenge on its own. Now, judging by these statistics, like, okay, 90% of people use some sort of streaming service. That is either Apple Music, Apple Music, Spotify, apparently Tencent or whatever.
And I looked it up and it just took me to some China
so from Bandcamp doesn't even make the list of subscribers. So it goes to show that it's more of a niche thing, which it served its purpose for what it was. It was great when it started off, and now seems like it's kind of deterring from that. But what I was going to say is, like, you're adding extra hurdles to where people are not going to listen to your stuff, to where they're like, okay, maybe they didn't have Bandcamp, so now they got to download the app, make an account, go find your music on there just to listen to a 2 to 3 minute song, which may or may not be good.
Now, the reason that I like Bandcamp is because you actually can own the music. Like, you can save the files and shit.
But what I get that 100%. Like, with the download codes and stuff, that's about the only reason I do use Bandcamp, is to redeem all my download codes from shit I buy. So, like with Apple Music, I use it on the go. I use it while I'm driving and, et cetera, et cetera. It's a convenience thing. And I know you do the same with this. Like, it's supplemental to, you find something that you discover a new band, you want to check them out, and then you go from there on to buying their stuff, supporting them on their social media, etc. Like, that's the extra step that people need to be taking that's most important. Like, yes, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. is a ripoff, but it's almost like I would say it's a necessary evil.
You think it's a ripoff? Or a ripoff?
I think if you're talking in terms of just trying to make any revenue from your music, it's a ripoff. But in terms of promotion and like the amount of exposure that you can have, it's
way better.
It's the equivalent to a Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying you're going to get seen by hundreds of millions of people right away, but you have the potential to be able to be seen by those people. So if you're trying to live off of Spotify, it ain't going to happen.
And I think,
But I think if you're trying to get that,
does that, though.
I don't think so either. But I see a lot of people making this argument, and I understand the artist side of it. I understand the frustration. I get it. It's the same thing as when people were making that argument with record labels owning X amount of percentage of the music from all the shitty contracts that have been signed.
Yeah, it's the same thing, only a different time and a different fucking
it's pretty much the same concept, but under different circumstances. I go and listen to that music and then go buy from there, like I said. that is what I want to encourage people to do is like, obviously we all have this convenience at our fingertips. We can go and check this stuff out. You like it, then go support it, because in order to make, $9 to $10, that artist's song has to be streamed about 3,000 times on average to make that, which is about the cost of buying a tape or a CD. Unfortunately, you don't normally get records for $9 to $10 anymore, but once in a while. So, buy their tapes, buy their records, buy their CDs, buy their shirts, stickers, sandals, hot sauce, fucking whatever they got. Like, that's what's going to keep this going. Like the Spotify, the digital streaming, it's all just supplemental to be able to get people to come to you to be able to buy that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we just use them in different, obviously I know we use them in different ways than the average person, but I use it as like a tester of like a preview of fucking, okay, this is cool, all right, blah, 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 and then go from there.
Everybody consumes music differently,
right?
Though. Like, and I've noticed that, especially like in the last 4 or 5 years working.
Everybody
at the
has
store.
their own fucking way of doing shit.
Yeah, like everybody. Some people are song people, some people are album people, some people love storytellers, concept records. Everybody listens differently. And then there are those weirdos out there that are just like, I really don't like music. And I can't understand those people personally. Like, I'm like, oh, God, this person, like, doesn't have a heart. Like, there's no soul or redeemable quality to them. But
yeah, I think if you're not moved by music in any way, yeah, I don't know, you're soulless.
I mean,
it doesn't matter what it is.
I was going to say, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, if it's old, new,
right.
whatever. But
if you're like
so many things out there.
I don't listen to music. I don't like music.
We can't trust you if you don't.
Yeah,
this is not the place for you.
Some soulless shit. Anyway. No, it's the numbers are they're so fucking ridiculous as far as streams.
So do you think it'll fall off at some point? I do. I don't think it's going to be like a stock market crash type of thing. I think it's going to be like it gets to where it's going to plateau and then it'll kind of...
So how do you...
Because physical sales seem to be going up, just not at the rate that streaming is going up.
Okay, but do you think... Because basically streaming replaced radio, so...
Yeah.
Something would have to replace...
Streaming.
Yeah. Now you think something's going to do it?
I just think you can only get so large. Like at some point it's just going to kind of... They're either going to start charging too much... like look at like video streaming services. They have price increases every single year.
I see what you're saying.
So I think eventually people are going to start kind of like weaning off of it.
Gotcha.
And the more and more people that realize like you're not actually owning something, you don't have a hard copy, etc., hopefully people still are, wanting to be on that side of the collective market, and we'll keep that alive. I've
seen a couple generations before us in red, they're like kind of on that kick.
Yeah, but there's
like
a lot of
the
generations that are before us that got rid of all their stuff when like the changes started happening, like the record to CD change. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people be like, damn, I had this, that, and the other, like wish I wouldn't have gotten rid of it. I got rid of all my CDs, like that was stupid.
Yeah, and they got rid of all their records when CDs came out, and then got rid of all their CDs.
And now they're buying it all back at like triple the price.
Yeah, dude, that's fucking brutal. That's why I'm glad I...
But at the end of the day, like you get to take that home. It's yours. You can listen to it, whether the internet's out or not. You have it. You own it.
Flip side, I mean, you got to have some room to store some records for sure.
Oh yeah, that shit takes up space after a while.
I can see if you're stuck in a roach motel of a fucking apartment, streaming obviously for space is going to be your thing, but
I think a lot of people are on the go regularly too, to where they're not. Most people aren't sitting down to like listen.
Right.
Like a lot of people don't.
No, I mean it's like a straight up hobby. Yeah, it's like. Yeah.
Because I know we have plenty of friends that we'll talk to that are just like, the records are cool, but I just don't sit and listen to music like that. Which goes back to like everybody digests music differently. Like that, it just is what it is. We're all different creatures, but you got to enjoy it however it brings you that type of satisfaction.
Yeah, I think from listener point of view, it definitely makes it easier to find shit if you know what you're looking for and don't, like, I don't like letting Spotify, for instance, control exactly what I'm listening to, even though they give you suggestions and blah, blah, blah.
The suggestions are cool, but they're often like, okay, this band's 20 years old, which is great for, you know, we have to think like there are people out there that might not know about this band. Like if you're listening to Death, somebody might not know about Obituary.
Oh,
or
for sure.
You're listening to Madball, somebody might not know Agnostic Front, or, you know, whatever
what gets
it might
me
be.
is when they send me like a band that made one fucking EP in 2007 with 5 songs and never did anything again, and nobody knows what the fuck. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like, well, oh, this is great. How can I get more or listen to the band?
There just isn't any more
right.
out there yet.
That kind of fucking sucks. But again, I guess, you know, it could be like there's that one song and that random thing that could, I guess, completely change my
I see
world.
a lot of people talk about they like Spotify's playlists more than Apple Music's playlists, and I'm not a playlist person. Like I have some playlists that I've accumulated, but I don't often go looking for one to just be like, oh cool, there's a chill mix, I'm gonna turn that on.
Yeah, I just like making them. I don't like listening to other ones unless somebody's like if you were like, hey, this is whatever, then I would check it out. But as far, like you said,
yeah, like I've seen if like a book comes out, they're like, this is the playlist for that book or something like that. Or like we have a couple episodes where we're like, this is the playlist for that episode because those are the bands that we talked about.
Yeah, I like that
like
shit.
that stuff's cool when it has like a topic to go off of, but when it's just like a random curated playlist, I'd rather go listen
Joe Smith
to
or
what
whatever.
I want to.
Yeah, I guess I mean, it's there. 98% of people, there's no way around it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that you're gonna escape, so you can fight it. And the punk rock side of me wants to encourage you to fight it, but I also want all these artists to be like, get your music out there, get your shit heard. Like, don't limit yourself to what you can do. Don't expect it to be some, you know, get rich quick lucrative scheme, but think of it as a way to advertise your vinyl or your tapes or your CDs or whatever you're putting out. Or even if it isn't even any physical media, like that's how people are going to get to it. So why limit yourself?
Exactly. I'm just reading this I think it's on there, music stream, market share, and it's like paid music streaming, video sharing, radio, short videos. So all the way at the bottom is live shows, then social media.
And that's another conversation to be had, like are live shows getting too expensive?
Depends. I think, they are getting a little pricey, the big ones.
Because I was looking at, like, Kendrick Lamar's doing the GNX tour.
Uh-huh.
He's playing Ford Field, so I was like, oh, damn, that'd be dope.
Yeah.
And to get, like, the worst seats possible is, like, $200 a piece.
Yeah. That's not how I roll.
And, I mean, I get it. It's a huge tour. I mean, it's going to be massive. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, I have a better view of it if I watch it at home rather than being in the way up there.
That's just so you can wave your dick around and be like, I was there.
Yeah, you're watching
I watched it on a TV.
Yeah, you're watching it on a screen in a football stadium versus at home. And then you got to sit in traffic for fucking 2 hours to get in and out of there.
Yeah, no, that's intense, man.
Yeah, it was pricey, so I won't be going to that, but...
How close could you get? Like, what was still available?
You could still... When I looked, it was the day of.
Okay.
When it went on sale. Like, everything was still available. But if you wanted to get, like, in the... What would generally be called general admission or the pit or whatever, I want to say it started at, like, $1,100.
Wow, dude. We got to start rapping.
And then I know... yeah, I don't think...
Fuck.
We ain't getting to that level. I want to say the UK tour, like when that got announced, it sold out like same day, like the whole tour. So I would imagine that this tour in America, it'll be doing the same thing, especially after all the Super Bowl stuff. But the Super Bowl is a good example of that because like the artists that do the Super Bowl, they don't get paid. they get a budget for the videos or for the stage setup, for the choreography, to
They
pay
don't
the
need to
people
get
that are
paid. Like,
involved.
just being there is getting them paid for
Well, that's
real.
what I'm saying. It's not the payment of what they would make doing the Super Bowl. It's the exposure and what they make afterwards. Like, from people generating reels and stuff online to commercials to podcasts, radio, promoters, etc. are going to be reaching out. I mean, it's going to be talked about endlessly. Obviously, it already has been. So, like, the promotion itself is already worth it just based off of that. So, take that moving forward. Remember that everything isn't always about money. Sometimes it's about getting your shit out there. But at the same time,
If you're doing
if
the
there's
Super
any,
Bowl, you ain't even worried about money.
if there's any Spotify or any of those executives out there listening, like, pony up and pay your fucking people more. At least a little bit. Like, we know you can afford it.
Fuck yeah.
But anyways, Jeremy, you got anything else you
I
want to add
just think
to this?
that another thing is I believe we live in more of a, I mean, we know we do in a singles real quick, like, and that's where this kind of
Honestly,
works.
though, we always have.
With
Like, if
the-
you go back to Motown era and
Oh, yeah,
shit,
it's all singles.
singles.
Yeah, for sure. It's only when people started doing acid, apparently, we got into albums for
And
a
some
couple
of those
years.
albums were horrible. I
But
don't know what the fuck Grateful Dead was doing.
but I think that's gonna be the top dog for a while. And like you said, eventually you'll see the flip, and it'll come down. But I would say for the next couple of years, this is gonna be the way most people get their tunes.
But along with that, remember to support your local record stores, support your artists that appreciate your contribution. Not that some of the bigger artists don't, but they don't see it as often. Like, they're not noticing every single little person buying up their stuff, whereas a band like that may not be quite as big, like, every record purchase that you get from them counts. Every t-shirt purchase,
Yeah, right.
everything.
It goes
like,
into their belly or
that
their
goes
gas tank.
into them putting out more stuff for you. So whatever it is music-wise that you love, like, do whatever you can to support it. I'm not saying you got to give these people thousands of dollars, but buy up a little bit of shit here and there. If you're going to a show, buy something to bring home with you.
I just want to add, too, that people that listen to jazz are very smart, according to this, because only 0.8% of those people listen to streams, according
Streaming
to
jazz. I know.
I know, I always thought it was
hip hop
weird, too.
leads it, but it is weird to stream jazz.
Yeah.
It feels strange. Even listening to it on CD sometimes seems weird.
It's such a fucking vinyl thing.
That's just how it was supposed to be made. That's how it came out. That's how you want to hear it. But let us know what you think in the comments. If you use this particular streaming service, let us know why. I would like to know what people's preferences and stuff are on why you use Spotify or why you use Apple Music or Bandcamp or whatever it may be. Or
If anybody uses
why
10
you're
cent,
against
I
all
want to
of
know
them.
that, too.
Yeah, I would like.
the
I've
fuck is
never
10
even
cent?
seen it.
And maybe that's Tidal parent company or something, but it wouldn't be above Amazon either.
No.
Well, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll have to look into it, but follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Patreon, everything at Noise Avocation. Links to it are in our bio as always. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you next week.